When we prepare a financial budget, it's important to make sure that crucial expenses are covered. So we take the money that we know is coming and we designate it for things like shelter, food, utilities, transportation, etc. And then if we have money that might come, but we're not sure or we're not sure how much, then that can be used for smaller things or less important things like eating out in restaurants, buying new clothes, entertainment, etc. We can apply a similar principle to our time budgets. Now, we have money in our financial budget, but in our time budget, our currency is our energy because we need energy to work. And sometimes we have more energy than at other times. Often, people will have a good supply of energy in the mornings, and then it may start to dissipate in the afternoons and plunge in the evenings. So we need to make sure that we are using our high energy times for work that we find requires the most energy. And then we can do tasks that are less draining when our energy is lower. So here are 4 ways to match tasks to energy as you're budgeting your time this week. The first way is to do a little self-analysis. Now, I mentioned that many people have their highest energy in the mornings, but that might not be true for everyone. Maybe you're a night owl who gets energized in the evenings, and you are able to do focused work late at night. The important thing is to identify what works for you. So think back over the last week. Which times of the day did you have the highest energy, the most motivation? When was it easiest to make decisions? When was it super easy to focus? You felt productive, you got a lot accomplished. When was that time of day for you on a regular basis? Is it the morning? Is it the afternoon? Is it the evening? Is it in the middle of the night maybe? And then think over the last week, when were the times that you had the least energy? When starting a new task felt like climbing a mountain? When your attention just kept wandering? When you were leaning your head on the desk and thinking, I wish I could just go to bed, or I need a break? When does that happen to you usually? In the mornings? In the afternoons? In the evenings? In the middle of the night? You're probably sleeping then, unless you do shift work. Well, this little self-analysis is just to help you identify the times of day when you generally have the most energy, when it's most predictable that you will feel energetic. And then the second way that you can do this to match your tasks to energy is by doing a little work analysis. So you've already analyzed your personal energy levels, but now it's time to analyze how they affect your work. So you're going to need to do this in light of your personality. Not everyone has the same energy profile. Now, in previous videos, we've talked about various types of work: meetings, appointments, and calls, which are people work, routine tasks, and projects. Now, for work that involves other people, such as meetings, appointments, calls, online meetings even, does that require a lot of mental or social energy for you? That would mean that you're probably an introvert and you find it draining. You can do it, but afterwards you're tired. You don't feel very motivated to do much else. Now, on the other hand, for work that involves other people, such as meetings, appointments, calls, is that effortless for you and energizing? That would mean you're probably an extrovert, and this type of thing recharges you. Now let's talk about routine tasks. Do they seem effortless to you? Could you practically do them in your sleep? Or do you find that following a checklist is tedious and draining? Makes you want to climb the walls. So we've talked about things to do with people, meetings, appointments, calls. We've talked about routine tasks. And the third category is projects. So I think that for most of us, we do need high energy to spend a large, focused block of time on projects because projects often require creativity. So when you're deciding when to schedule projects in this week's time budget, consider what we just talked about. If you're an introvert, you should reserve your highest energy times for focused work on projects. Don't try to tackle a project after a draining time of people work. And you could just do routine tasks at that time because they don't require a lot of energy. You can kind of do them on autopilot. Now, for extroverts, you also should save your highest energy times for focused work on projects. Don't try to focus on a project after you've done routine tasks that drain you. You might need some people time in between to energize you. So that's just to help you with your work analysis so that you know what type of tasks to match for your high and low energy times. The third way to match tasks to energy is with a body analysis. Our energy levels are greatly affected by what is going on in our bodies. First of all, if we're dealing with sickness, it's very difficult to muster up the energy for any type of work. And maybe we shouldn't. Maybe our body just needs some time off to rest and heal. And then we can come back to work with renewed focus. And if we've built margin into our schedule, we can take that time we need when we're sick. Secondly, exercise is a factor in our energy. Now, I know it sounds counterintuitive, but when you expend energy in exercise, it actually gives you more energy, as long as you don't overdo it and push yourself to exhaustion. So maybe a 15-minute walk before work or at lunchtime might help you focus better and be more productive. Thirdly, food has an enormous impact on our brain energy. Eating a sugary or high-carb breakfast or lunch is probably going to cause an energy crash at some point. And carbs just seem to make us even hungrier, don't they? So we need to try for more protein and good fats, maybe a small amount of fruit for breakfast with our protein and fat, and then at lunchtime, protein fats with lots of vegetables. Recently, I got food poisoning. And I ended up going 3 days without eating anything because I felt so bad. Now, that was a difficult experience, but I took the opportunity to do a health reset. And I decided I am tired of getting sick so often. And, not always from food poisoning, but other things, colds and flu. And I need to make some changes in the way I eat. So here's what I'm doing. Homemade protein smoothie for breakfast, a salad with protein and healthy oils for lunch, and for supper I have meat, vegetables, and healthy fats. I've been doing that for a couple weeks now. I've been able to recover from my sickness, and I am feeling much more energetic. Not just more energetic than when I was sick, more energetic than before I got sick. So I highly recommend this way of eating. I highly recommend that you do a body analysis and see if some changes in exercise or food can make a difference in your energy level. The fourth way to match tasks to energy is to do an efficiency analysis. So if you have tasks that are draining you, it might be because they're just not set up to be as efficient as they could be. For example, maybe you have projects that take a lot of energy because you're constantly having to figure things out, maybe even things you've done before. To give you an example, I do some accounting work for the charities I'm involved in, and I have these year-end accounting procedures and charity returns that I have to do. The problem is only doing them once a year, I forget how to do it. By the next year, the time it rolls around, I can't remember what I'm supposed to put in that blank or what order to do things in or what information I need to start. So I got tired of wasting time like that, and I created a template and a checklist so that I don't have to figure out the same questions every year. I can just blindly follow the checklist. Now, this has turned a difficult project into a routine task, and it takes less time and it's less stressful. Another example is software that you don't use very often. and you end up always having to Google the same questions. How do I insert a picture in Photoshop? Of course, it couldn't be as simple as clicking paste. No, it has to be place embedded. And in Premiere Pro, how do I edit out a piece that doesn't belong in a video? Oh yeah, it's the razor tool. Just write it all down. Keep it somewhere like in OneNote or somewhere else with a checklist that you can easily follow. It's going to save you so much time, but also so much mental energy. So think about what types of projects you have that you could make more efficient by creating a template, explanatory notes, or a checklist. We've looked at 4 ways to match tasks to energy as you're budgeting your time this week. The first was self-analysis, to find out when your energy levels are typically low or high in a given day. The second was a work analysis, the types of projects and tasks you have to work on and what type of energy they take for you personally. The third was a body analysis, and how things like sickness have to be taken into account, how food and exercise can really affect our energy levels. And then the fourth was an efficiency analysis, to find out if some of those tasks and projects that we're doing that we find so draining, if they could be made easier and require less energy if we made them more efficient. So I have a question for you. What time of day do you have the most mental energy? Feel free to comment below. What time of day do you have the most mental energy? Be sure to get your free weekly time budget worksheet by clicking the link below in the comments. And stay tuned for more videos in the series Time Budgeting 201, where we're digging into each of the various principles for time budgeting our week.